considered that religion in general, the many different religions that are on this planet, are basically metaphors that were imposed by the very, very early civilization to have some sort of order over the people. Leaders of very ancient civilizations had no control over these people unless they said, listen, there is a god or many gods up there that will punish you unless you do the right things.
Yes, that's happened, I agree.
And so then okay, what you have said so far is that you assume that the Bible is true, correct?
No. Never once did I say, I assume the Bible's true.
Okay, you know the Bible is true. That's what you were saying?
I said the evidence is the Gospels are historically accurate. That's what I said.
What evidence that you have said to prove all the different things that you have answered these people's questions with all stem from the Bible and God's teachings through Jesus. That is what you've been saying.
No, it is not.
All right, well, that's what a lot of people have been getting out of it.
I said very clearly that if you believe God exists because a book tells you to, you're a fool. I would never believe God exists because a book tells me God exists.
This woman is questioning how much the Christian religion is dependent on the Bible. It's a good question. What would the Christian religion look like today if there was no Bible? Would there be a religion at all? I'll let your imagination wander with the idea. Another thing I wanted to point out is that Cliffe sort of makes a hypocritical comment, saying not to believe in something just because a book tells him to, and then turns around and says he believes in Jesus Christ because a book tells him to. Now I think I know where he was going with this. There is a lot of evidence out there that says that Jesus Christ actually existed and was a real person.
In the Old Testament it says, and God made the plants and they were good. Okay, well then, was he mistaken in creating all of these things that can hurt us, like belladonna, like henbane, like all of these horrible plants that if you even touch them, you can die?
Obviously, the Bible does not teach that God created every living being for you to snort or digest. First point is, the good creation was cursed, we read in Genesis chapter 3. When human beings rebelled against God, the good creation was cursed. So you and I do not live in the Garden of Eden. We live in a cursed, messed up world. And the second point is, even in the Garden of Eden, God did not necessarily create a tree for me to eat the bark or the wood. I mean, that's incorrect conclusion.
But then
Cliffe makes a very fine point here that yes, the plants were good before Adam and Eve came along, but after they ate from the tree of knowledge, everything became cursed. An idea this lady was struggling to grasp. Although he could have easily said this is the work of the devil as well. We have all heard the term devil's lettuce. This could definitely apply here, and this is why the Bible is so interpretive. He could have easily chosen either one of these arguments.
Do you believe, or do we have this great belief that Jesus Christ is returning to our planet?
He promised to return again.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yes, sir. He promised to return again.
Is.
Correct.
So that's where you say he's still alive, somewhere, like you said, in heaven.
Yes.
That's your point.
Yes, sir.
That's kind of the definition of life is a little bit, I don't know, fluctuated here.
You bet.
I mean, where is life? There is life like they are trying to find that there is life all over. I don't know.
Okay, good point.
What
I don't know either.
What is it?
Okay.
So we just believe, huh? We just have this belief.
No. Based on the historical resurrection of Jesus from the dead,
yes,
I am convinced that when Jesus said that there's life after death, that he wasn't blowing smoke. He was speaking the truth.
There's not much to go off of here, but questioning what it means to be alive after death, especially in the case of Jesus, is difficult to wrap your head around.
If I lose my money, would you still love me? And the woman responded, if you lost your money, I would still love you, and I'd also miss you. And that's the way a lot of relationships are, aren't they? And obviously, God created us to love him, which means he didn't create us as puppets, robots, programmed computers. Instead, he created us with his free will, this innate ability to love, or to choose to be apathetic, or to hate. Ultimately, why did God do that? I do not know.
You know, I have to applaud Cliffe here. The ability to say you don't know an answer is truly powerful. In this instance, It opens up the possibility to further discuss God's motives.
I thought the debate went well until the last question. A woman at the back of the lecture hall raised her hand and said, "If I understand Mr. Knechtle correctly, what he has said is, if I reject Jesus Christ, I'm going to hell." I said, I've got two basic points to make. First of all, I have not come to Colombia as a superior moral specimen, telling inferior moral specimens how they too can get their act together. Rather, I have come to Colombia as a beggar who has found where living bread is in a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And I've come to tell fellow beggars where they too can find bread. My second point is this. Let's imagine for a moment that there is no heaven and there is no hell. There is no day of judgment. If there is no day of judgment, then powerful, corrupt people win the day, and innocent, weak people lose the day.
This one is interesting because if you listen closely, he never really answers the question. In his first answer, he attempts to rid the pressure of explaining how non-believers going to hell is moral. He attempts to do this by referring to himself without an authoritative role, when in fact it is not him who would have the authority, it would be God. His second answer is a lot closer, in that it actually brings up morality, stating that without judgment there would basically be chaos. This I agree with. However, a judgment doesn't always have to come from a God. We have people where their entire job is to judge others, judge their wrongdoings, and how long their sentence in prison should be. Some of these judges are non-believers. Do they speak on behalf of God? Let's see the next one.
The Gospels talk about demons, and I've never seen a demon. I have no conception of what a demon is.
All right. I went to a New England prep school, and I had a philosophy professor who one day stood up in front of our class and said, "I hope that you guys are smart enough and intelligent enough to realize there is no devil, no demonic forces." 2 months later, that philosophy professor came back to our class and said, "I have an apology to make. 2 months ago, I mocked the idea of a supernatural devil. Today, I worship him." I went to a seance, and at that seance, a medium told me things about my past it took me 2 weeks to remember had really occurred. I go to churches and synagogues and mosques. I don't see any supernatural power. I listen to people speak. I hear people sing. But I don't see any supernatural power. I go to a seance, and I see supernatural power. Sir, the evidence is there is supernatural power.
I don't feel I need to add much to this. Cliffe brings up anecdotal evidence for the claim that demons exist. Anecdotal evidence is the lowest form of evidence. Anyone can claim anything, but to be able to prove it in a lab is a different story.
Your parents would have taught you to be atheist. You'd be an atheist.
You gotta be kidding me. Didn't you hear what this guy said? Ma'am, his parents made him go to Catholic school. Never mind church. And you've heard it from his own lips, he doesn't believe now. And yet you are thinking and saying to me, the only reason I'm a Christian is because I grew up in a Christian home? Don't you hear what home he grew up in? And he doesn't believe it.
It started your foundation.
Fine, it was his foundation. He rejects it. You and I are not simply the result of what mom and dad teach us, ma'am.
This is an argument of nature versus nurture. Nature being the ability to express free will and independence. Nurture being the idea that your environment plays a critical role in how you develop. Now, I do believe Cliffe is right here. We are not direct copies of our parents. However, to say that our environment doesn't play a big role in our development is foolish. All you have to do is look at a map of the most dominant religions in each country. You'll find that a lot of the same religions are clumped together.
Problem.
Oh, you do? You base your life on 100% proof?
Yes.
Oh, really?
That's why I'm skeptical of everything.
Really? So that means you take a chemistry kit to the pharmacy, and when the pharmacist hands you that bottle of medicine, you chemically analyze it to make sure there's no poison in there, right?
That's why I don't
Because unless
take
you have
medicine.
100% proof, you would never dare take that pill and put it in your mouth.
Now, plain and simple, this lady got put in her place. Nobody lives their life on 100% proof. Even if you did chemically analyze those pills, you still would have to consider the fact that the kit is faulty. We live lives based on probability, based on the evidence that is presented to us.
I have hope that there will be no war. I hope that we will all live a happy existence. That's hope. That's the essence of hope. I don't have hope for the afterlife, but I still have hope.
When I use the word hope, I'm talking about a confident expectation of good in the end. And you see, if you're an atheist, what you've got to acknowledge is the end is the end. The end is we're all fertilizer. You see, there's no confident expectation of good.
Because if I have hope for tomorrow, that's still hope. What you're talking about is faith. You're talking about faith for the future. That's completely different than hope.
All right, you're right. There is a connection between faith and hope. If my faith is that there is no God, then I can't be an intellectual hypocrite and talk about, wow, there's a bright future out there. I don't know that. Because there is no God. When you die, you rot. When I die, I rot.
But I will have left something on this planet for others to remember me by. That's where the hope comes in.
I can go and make those plays. Or I can go out and poison people to death. It's ultimately meaningless. Which means despair is the only logical conclusion of atheism.
Okay, so here Cliffe fails to accept the fact that many people live their lives for other reasons than just the afterlife. The lady in the video named a lot of the positives for the future. I could also see someone living their life for a negative cause. Revenge, sabotage, or self-gratification. The possibilities are truly endless.
Slavery is a perfectly fine thing?
No?
Because it certainly seems like it, because it's not saying thou shalt not have slaves, thou
Right.
shalt not own another human being. It's just don't take them from your neighbor.
Right?
And there's a lot of other things in the Mosaic books that refer to, God saying, go into this area, conquer them, take slaves you want, kill the babies, take the women as your concubines, and so on. I mean, it seems like if that's a moral absolute, then if you connect it with the other things that are especially in the Mosaic text, it seems like, part of the moral absolute is kill people who don't believe in God. It's okay to enslave people, and, any number of other horrors.
Christianity claims to be a moral religion, and this man directly confronts it. How can your religion be moral when its origins basically advocate for slavery and executions? You can't. So in order to win the argument, Cliffe attempts to invalidate this man's moral position rather than uphold his own.
According to your worldview, which is human rights are determined by the political system, it is okay for my neighbor to eat me.
That is not what I'm saying.
Well, then what are you saying? I thought you said flat out that human rights are based on political victories.
You're making an absolute out of what I'm putting forth as a conditional historical thing. I'm not saying that, anything that's developed as a result of political struggle is therefore just or anything like that, or there is no basis. I'm just saying there is no God deciding it. And if it's your God, it's a up basis to do it because your God likes slavery. Your God likes genocide.
Okay, so all you got to do is
that's what I'm rejecting.
all you got to do is read Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche does a great job pointing out that you can't hold the position you're holding because this is what you're doing. You're grabbing the goody-goodies from a theistic worldview, from God existing. In fact, you are grabbing the goody-goodies from a biblical Christian worldview, but you're denying the God who's behind it. You love the ethic, which is human rights. Sir, if there is no God, there is no such thing as human rights. If there is no God, sir, we are all hunks of primordial slime evolved to a higher order. If there is no God, your birth is an accident, your death is an accident. The only thing that lies between those two accidents is another accident, your life. There's no such thing as a human right. There's no such thing as human dignity if there is no God.
Wow. Even after all those absolute claims he made, he still failed to explain the messed up origins of slavery and executions within his own religion. Instead, he trails off into what-if scenarios about his God not existing and how chaotic it would be, when in fact what he is actually describing is somewhat how his religion began. Well, that's all I got for you. See y'all in the next one.